Most people think they know Tenerife, a warm island, a beach destination, a place for winter sun and resort holidays. And to be fair, that version of Tenerife does exist, but it is only the surface. Because beyond the beaches and hotel promenades, there is another side to this island, one that feels wilder, quieter, and far more dramatic than most people expect. A place where roads disappear into the clouds, where forests feel almost prehistoric, and where volcanic landscapes stretch like another planet. This is Tenerife, beyond the resorts. And once you begin to leave the obvious places behind, the island starts to reveal itself in a very different way. Not just as a holiday destination, but as one of the most surprising landscapes in Europe. At the heart of Tenerife rises Mount Teide, Spain's highest peak. And around it, the island transforms completely. The landscape becomes dry, open, and almost lunar. Dark lava fields stretch into the distance, broken only by strange rock formations and the winding roads that cut through them. Driving through this part of Tenerife doesn't feel like driving through Spain. It feels quieter than that, more elemental, as if the island is showing you its oldest layer. And sometimes the contrast becomes almost surreal. You can stand high above the clouds, with the Atlantic hidden somewhere below. Then, only a little further down, the volcanic emptiness gives way to pine forests. The island changes quickly here, and that constant shift is part of what makes Tenerife so compelling. Because Tenerife never feels like just one landscape. It feels like several, layered into one island. And nowhere does that feel more surprising than in Anaga, because this is not the Tenerife most people imagine. Here, the island becomes green, misty, and almost ancient. The roads narrow, the air cools, and the entire atmosphere changes. Driving through Anaga feels less like crossing an island, and more like entering another world. One shaped not by sun and beaches, but by cloud, forest, and silence. The laurel forests here are among the oldest ecosystems in Europe, and walking through them, it's easy to understand why this part of Tenerife feels so different. Then, suddenly, the forest opens, and the island reveals another dramatic view. Mountains dropping toward the ocean, villages hidden below, clouds moving slowly through the valleys. Anaga doesn't just feel beautiful, it feels mysterious. And that is not something many places still manage to hold on to. Then there is Masca, a place that may be one of the most cinematic corners of Tenerife. The road into Masca winds sharply through the mountains, turn after turn, with cliffs rising on one side and deep valleys falling away on the other. And eventually, almost unexpectedly, the village appears, small, quiet, and surrounded by dramatic peaks. Masca feels hidden in a way that very few places still do, as if it was never meant to be found quickly. And maybe that is why it stays in people's memory. Because places like this remind you that the road itself can be part of the experience, not just the destination, but the feeling of arriving there. And in the late afternoon light, the entire valley softens. What felt dramatic moments earlier becomes quiet and almost intimate. And beyond the cliffs and mountain roads, Tenerife reveals another side of itself, one that exists not on the island, but around it. These waters are home to dolphins and pilot whales year-round, a reminder that Tenerife's wildness does not end at the shoreline. Then the island shifts once again. Along the coast, Tenerife reveals another side of itself. Dark cliffs rise directly from the Atlantic. The waves feel heavier here, the coastline rougher, more exposed, more alive. Even the beaches tell a different story. In many places, the sand is dark, volcanic, a reminder that this island was shaped by fire long before it became a holiday destination. And then, in between all of this, there are quiet towns, places where the pace slows again. Old balconies, church squares, soft light on narrow streets, the kind of places where Tenerife feels lived in, not just visited. From these quieter corners, the island feels deeply peaceful. And perhaps that is the side of Tenerife many people miss entirely. Maybe that is why Tenerife stays with people more than they expect. Not because it reveals itself all at once, but because it keeps changing. Volcanic and green, wild and quiet, familiar, and somehow still unexpected. And perhaps that is what travel is really about. Not simply seeing a place, but discovering the side of it most people never notice. If places like this speak to you, subscribe to Travel Tales Studio. There are many more quiet corners of the world still waiting to be explored. Until the next journey.